So he did remember that, Christian. He remembered pushing back and suggesting to Mr. Populous that actually meeting with Mr. Putin was not a great idea for Donald Trump. But what happened after that was that he basically couldn't remember very much at all. For more on Mr. Sessions' testimony, we're joined now from Capitol Hill by Democrat Karen Bass. She serves on the House Judiciary Committee, and she was in that hearing. Karen Bass, Congresswoman, how do you account for the fact that Jeff Sessions really doesn't remember very much about contacts that may have been made by the Trump campaign with Russians?
Well, I actually think that it's very disingenuous, because I could understand that many months ago, the first time he was asked this, but you would think that somebody of his stature would really have taken time to re-examine everything in his calendar, the meeting, talking to other people. So I don't accept his notion that he does not recollect what went on. That was far too significant for him not to remember.
Yeah, his only excuse today seemed to have been that the campaign was very chaotic.
Well, there's nothing new about that. But like I said, he was asked these questions many months ago. So he's had plenty of time to examine what happened in the past. So I think saying that he doesn't recollect, the campaign is very strenuous, those were excuses that I considered to be very disingenuous.
Congresswoman, on the investigation more broadly, how much pressure are you under from your Republican colleagues to wrap up the committee's investigation on Russian links?
Well, I don't necessarily feel any pressure specifically on my committee. We need to do far more investigating. I am glad that we had Attorney General Sessions today, but this is really one of the first hearings we've had. So I don't think that there's pressure from my committee, but the Republicans clearly can go so much further in their investigation. It's nowhere near over.
Congresswoman, the Republican chair of your committee will be very pleased to hear that the Attorney General has directed senior prosecutors to look into the Clinton Foundation and their links to Uranium One. What do you make of that?
I think that that's a complete diversion. I think that the Attorney General is going to be under pressure to please the President, who has clearly expressed on many occasions his displeasure with him. And so everyone knows if you want to please President Trump, then just focus on the Clintons, focus on the Obamas. It's completely absurd to have an investigation like that, but I could see him doing it so that he could keep his job.
Just coming back to his testimony, I'm just digging out here a quote that he gave to the Senate Judiciary Committee on the June 13th. He said, "I've never met with or had any conversation with any Russians or any foreign officials. Further, I have no knowledge of any such conversations by anyone connected to the Trump campaign." And yet today he's just admitted that Papadopoulos did talk to him about Russia. Isn't he sailing close to perjury?
And see, that's why I said it's disingenuous. And sure, I mean, you're not supposed to lie to Congress. As a matter of fact, before he began his testimony, as you well know, he was sworn in. He was sworn in to tell the truth to the Congressional Committee. And he didn't.
So what are you going to do about it?
Well, I think we'll have to see how it proceeds. I'm sure that my Republican colleagues aren't going to press the situation, but you can be sure on the Democratic side that we will.
Congresswoman, let me just ask you the question that Christian asked earlier of the Member of Parliament about the Facebook hearings. To what extent does it make it difficult to have these investigations when the President of the United States seems to be saying, when he's abroad, that he accepts Russia's defense of itself, that it never interfered in the American elections?
Well, I just consider it an embarrassment. I mean, I also serve on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I know that people around the world must be looking at us and laughing. It's very clear to any head of state around the world that if you want to have the president change his mind, just invite him to your country, have a lot of pomp and circumstance, roll out the red carpet, have a lot of bells and whistles, and he'll essentially agree with anybody. And I think it's embarrassing for him to be overseas and say that he had a 5-minute conversation with Putin, and that has more credibility than 17 separate intelligence agencies as a part of his United States government. And he takes a 5-minute conversation with the enemy above that. Makes us look silly.
Okay, Congresswoman Karen Bass, thanks very much for joining us.
Let's have a look at some of the day's other news. The Iranian president has promised government help to all those left homeless by Sunday's powerful earthquake, which struck the mountainous border region between Iran and Iraq. Hassan Rouhani was visiting the area today.